I'm Clay Walrath. My sobriety date's October 17th, 2022.
You can go ahead and take a seat, Clay, and then Ray will sit right next to him.
You ever done anything like this before?
No. So this is going to be good. Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Well, how are you?
For you to meet Clay.
Hey Clay, how you doing?
Hello, how you doing?
Congratulations, man. I want to say thank you. You're an inspiration, role model to the clients that we serve, and you know, you're the reason people like you. You're the reason we do the job that we do.
I appreciate that.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Clay Walrath. I'm 37 years old. I grew up in foster care. I was separated from my siblings at about 5 years old. Ended up in multiple group homes and foster homes. I was in homes that ended up being a lot of abuse in a lot of the homes that I was in. Physical, mental, sexual, all the abuses really. My dream was to play baseball, you know, so I ended up going to school in Riverside. I grew up in Banning, California, and for me, the closest thing I could get to school was Riverside, and that required me to travel from Banning to Riverside. Till one day, I was in a car accident, and somebody hit me at a stoplight, and I was fine, but that ended up being to where I didn't have a way to get to school. About that time, I turned 17, and I ended up deciding to join the military. It was an opportunity for me to do something that would get me out of the environment that I was in. When I first got to boot camp, I was extremely young, 17. For me, my experience outside of the house and church and things like that were minimal, you know. So once I finally got to Fort Benning, Georgia, it was like a culture shock to me, you know. I started finding that connection that I was looking for my entire childhood. I ended up at Fort Benning for basic, and then I ended up earning an airborne and ranger contract in basic training for having the highest physical training scores. Ended up sneaking out on graduation weekend. We weren't supposed to leave, and getting real drunk with my friends. And another individual got a DUI in my vehicle, and so therefore we got caught, and I got kicked out of Ranger Indoctrination Program and sent to the 82nd Airborne Division. In the 82nd Airborne Division, when you're not rotating into Afghanistan, you're what's called a quick reaction force for the entire country. So even when you're stateside, when you're not training, you're on call to deploy anywhere in the world within 18 hours. It's a high stress and high pressure position, you know. So a lot of us like to, when we did have some time off, drink a lot. You know, to be honest with you, in my experience in the military, you weren't really trusted if you didn't drink. I feel like the PTSD that I did have in my childhood prepared me to be the soldier that I ended up being. You know, I'm grateful for that today. There was something called a stop loss that ended up involuntarily extending my contract for a year after I was in the military to go to Afghanistan. Being involuntarily extended after I was ready to go home was something I just started rebelling against the system with, you know, and for me, that started with smoking weed, you know. And when I got back to my unit and was about to deploy, we had a drug test, and I failed the drug test. And instead of kicking me out and having me leave the military, my leaders really went to bat for me, and I ended up deploying and keeping my team leader position. So I went to Afghanistan in 2007, and I was there for 15 months. It was crazy, you know, because we spent months and months and months in the woods and in the training, deployment training for that experience in Afghanistan, and there was nothing that could have prepared me for what happened in Afghanistan. We lost some guys and ended up coming back. I ended up ETSing from the military and moving back to California. I wasn't back for very long, you know. I was out of the military for 4 months. Ended up getting married and deciding, once an individual in my unit called me and told me that they were getting rotated back to Afghanistan, and going to Helmand province, I decided that I wanted to go back with them, so I joined the Army again. I ended up going back to Afghanistan for another 15 months, and my experience was completely different. I ended up seeing a lot of PTSD symptoms coming up, really aggressive, really short-tempered, and just real depressed and anxious. I ended up getting appendicitis in Afghanistan, and I had surgery in Afghanistan to remove my appendix. And I was given some opiates, some pain pills, and I just liked the escape that it gave me, not even physically, but mentally, and emotionally. And I started abusing pills after the prescription ran out, or the amount of pills they gave me ran out. On missions, I would go out and get pills from local nationals over there. And it just really escalated to the point of unmanageability for me. Because of my record, they did not kick me out of the military. I was just barred from re-enlistment. And at that point, it was fine with me. I carried deep resentments already. I just wanted nothing to do with the military. And it went from my early childhood, striving to connect with anybody and everybody, to finding that connection in the military, and then losing the connection, whether or not it was through loss in war, or being separated, or just leaving my military experience, to the point where once I left the military, I just didn't want I didn't want anything to do with anybody. I was abusing weed, and pills at the time. The VA was sending me opiates every month to my door, and my mind, I was out of control. I didn't understand how to deal with the feelings of coming back, feelings of feeling isolated, not knowing what to do now that I was out of the military. Being in the service from 17 to 23 is a big time in a young man's life, to be able to try to learn how to do things. And when I got out, I was in Arizona for a year, and we were starting to have problems, so we decided that we were going to come back to Riverside to be near the people I call my family, and so we got back over here. At that time, my opiate addiction was full-blown, really. My marriage ended up dissolving after we had our child, and from the moment I separated, I ended up going back to what I knew over here, which was Banning, where I grew up. Banning's not a very healthy environment to be homeless and looking for opportunities. So really, right away, I ended up hitting the streets, and ended up addicted to meth, and shortly thereafter heroin, and then fentanyl. In hindsight, it carried a lot of hurt at the time, but for me, I can clearly see that the appreciation I have for my PTSD as a child had set me up to do what I had to do in the military to survive, and to be the person that I was, And then looking back, the experience that I had in the military prepared me for the next step of my life, which ended up being a very dangerous life on the streets, And I'm appreciative of both the good and the bad in my life, as they are learning experiences, But it wasn't always that way in my mind. It wasn't always an appreciation, that's for sure. The first time I was ever arrested was in Banning. At that point, I was literally walking around the streets. I didn't really have too many places to go. I was freshly back after being gone for quite some time, and so I was new to the streets, and literally out in the open 24/7. For me, when I'm in my addiction, it's completely obvious. There's no hiding it whatsoever. I was obviously high walking up the street, and these sheriffs just called me over to talk to me, and I just thought nothing of it and went over to talk to them. And they didn't want to talk to me. They wanted to search me, and they searched me, And I had a lot of drugs on me, and I was charged with sales, and I went to jail for the first time and put on probation.
I mean, when I first saw him, that was the huge change that I saw, because I think you just grew out your hair then.
Yeah.
And before then, I mean, no offense, but it was just like before he was more sucked in.
Yeah.
And like he didn't have long hair. He had this goatee. I'm glad you shaved it off. He had this little goatee on, complete opposite. So when I saw him, he was like muscular. I was like, dang, dude. It's like, I think that was one of my first comments that I said. It's like, you've been lifting the weights, huh? That was the major change. Like, point on, you see some people that like overcome some addictions and you'll see some subtle change. For him, it was just like a new person. Like it was like the crazy. The other version of him was a shell, and this was, I was like, wow, this is crazy. So yeah, huge difference.